All right, so we just said we're running to the nose. My gosh, running like that sounds really weird. Running to the nose. This morning on Loan Officer Breakfast Club, we were talking about there's things you could say yes to, but more importantly, Frank, there's things you need to say no to.
And I
Unpack
like the
that
way
for
that
me,
you
man.
said more importantly, because that
Yeah,
is the truth. More
yeah.
importantly, we need to really evaluate things that we are saying yes to that we probably should not be saying yes to. And we should be saying no to a lot of things. Not only, and Steve, this didn't quite get covered on Breakfast Club, but not only should we say no to things that come our way, oftentimes we should evaluate and
Mm,
say no to those, but we should say no to a lot of the things we're thinking. You know what I mean?
mm.
Like what things we're thinking about doing or things we're,
Yeah.
I've got a plan, I'm working a plan, I'm generating revenue, I'm watching deals come into the door. It makes a whole lot more sense to focus on how did I get those and do more of that instead of maybe there's something else, you know what I
Mhm,
mean? Or
mhm.
something comes across my plate. Maybe, yes, I should do that, and that was one of your main points today on Breakfast Club that I was really appreciative of,
Yeah.
is being able to really focus on the things you said. How do you say? You say, we tend to dissect the things
Yeah, so
that go
we
wrong.
tend
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
right. That well, here's what happens in life, and you know where I heard it. Andy Stanley has a great podcast, and years ago, I just happened to hear this one thing, and he talked about in society, in life, in business, we always not always, but we tend to dissect what goes wrong. Hey, that
Yeah.
went wrong. Why did it go wrong?
Why?
What
Yeah.
process are we going to put in place to fix it? But I'll never forget hearing him talk about the importance of dissecting what went right.
Huh.
Because what we tend to not do is it's like all of our listeners, all of our community, you're intuitively good. That's why you're doing what you do. The challenge is when you're intuitively good, you think everybody's good at it. Everybody's good at it. Oh, everybody's good at asking for the business. Like it always cracks me up when they're like, "You're one of the best in scripts." I'm like, "Everybody's good at scripts." No,
Mm.
no, no. You got to go back and dissect what it is that is bringing you the success. And really, you know what that is? It's a skill set of working on the business, not in the business. And I'll tell you, that's probably the number one thing that transformed me personally was just this perpetual habit of every Friday taking a couple of hours in the afternoon and saying, okay, what went really well? And then I wonder, why did it go well? Just ask yourself that. Why did that go really well? Why did we get those 3 referrals from that one agent? Why did this agent convert only after the third conversation? And then look at things that didn't go well. Hey, what didn't go well? And is it a process issue or is it an anomaly issue? And Frank, it's a lot like in our relationships. When you're curious, a lot of great things happen from curiosity. It's just looking at it and saying, huh, that went well. I wonder what was it? That didn't go well. I wonder what that was. Because here's what it is. Hey, and Frank, I'll tell you, I've been thinking a whole lot about this. There's so many cool things happen in my life. And there's one thing I think about is this. The reason it's hard to say no is because we don't have absolute clarity around be, do, have.
Hmm.
Let me explain this. Let me unpack it. When you understand or you have clarity around what I'm called to be, that's an identity state. And I know I'm not trying to go super deep, but let me just kind of unpack some of the layers because we tend to talk about all the work, 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 work. What's hard to say no if you don't know what I'm called to be and like, who am I?
Mm.
What am I called to
Hmm.
be? Well, and I got to tell you what I keep going back. I was telling Steph, oh, I love it. We just had such a great conversation tonight. I said, Steph, I am called to make a difference in the lives of the families and the people we serve. That's
Mm.
that's the core at like I'm called to love God and to make a difference. That's me. That's the being part of like I can rest in that. And then doing is what am I called to put my hands to and do? Everybody's
Mm.
called to do something. And in the mortgage space, it's like, okay, I'm what's the seat on the bus that I'm called to actually be in and do? And because whenever I'm being, I can do it. When I do it, I can have it. And I think when there's a lack of clarity around those 3 areas, hey, what are we going to have? What is the thing 12 months from now? I am closing 22 loans a month and loving everything that I do because I'm not focused on distractions. I'm focused on what I love to do. I'm the best at, makes me the most money. Like it's like you begin to get so crystal clear about who I am, about what I'm doing, and what I'm going to have as a result of the activity I'm doing because of the person I'm becoming. And I know
Mm,
that sounds deep, but when you're crystal clear on those kind of things, Frank, now when I look at the day, I say, does this align with my be do have? Does this align
mm,
with my be do have? Oh, okay, I
mm,
got to do 22 different things. Well, does that help me get closer to what it is I know I'm called to be, do, and have? And I
mm.
know that may sound silly, but it's like the more clear we are, and then here's the thing: there's things in life that have to be done. Emails have to be checked, fires have to be put out, documents have to be collected. I would challenge you to continue to ask who can do that. Yeah, but I'm a
Yeah.
lone ranger. Listen, I was working with a loan officer a couple of weeks ago. Lone Ranger, volumes ramping up. However, they were able to negotiate $500 a week for the next 30 days, so like $2,000 to get a pre approval specialist while they ramp up enough for their closings to pay for the support. I'm like, that's
Mm,
brilliant.
mm,
It doesn't take $50,000 a month to get help. It takes
mm.
being open to what would it look like if I had somebody in and around me that was doing some of the activity I don't need to be doing so that I can focus on the one thing that moves the needle, the two things that move the needle.
I
Okay,
love it. No, I love it, and I love be do have. That's a really good way
we got
to
to start there, man.
consider it. Yeah, well, it gets down to what you're saying, dissecting the things. It dovetails right on into that, right? It layers on top of that, which is making sure that when we dissect the things that worked, we dissect that, we understand this is what's working, and this is part of my be do have, right? It makes it easier for us to filter out other things that might otherwise just derail us from that, right? And we
Mhm,
can
mhm.
say no to other things more readily because we're so clear
Yeah,
on our be do have. We can
yeah,
easily say no to other things, and these can be seemingly harmless things. But I also want to point out, because I know there's a lot of people that they're originators who are not producing very much, but they just feel like, Steve, they've just got all this stuff going on. Like, it's just, my day is so busy. I got all this stuff, but yet the production, the results aren't there. But if they were to really evaluate everything that they are actually doing, right, and then they would be able to come down to, well, I'm doing all these things that they're not production things.
yeah,
These are not result getters. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Result getters. And so we really do have to take that time to, if we're feeling like that, we really do have to take that time to kind of bear down and figure out the be do have in our life
yeah,
and what we're doing, and look at our activities and see
yeah,
what is the right activity to align with that, and then be able to filter out inbound items, whether it
yeah,
be inbound from other people, or if it's even in our brain, in our own mind, thinking
yeah,
of other things to add to this mess of stuff,
yeah, yeah.
that I'm doing. We can filter through that. This has been really.
Hey, let me before
Go ahead.
one thing I
Yeah.
was going to say about this
Mm,
too. The challenge with it is because if we stop long enough to stop doing the busy work, two things happen. We become genuinely honest with ourselves, and it's a truth serum. And number two is now I've got to fill that non-busy work time with things that actually move the needle. Hey there, if you're loving the tips so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss out on more cool free tips coming your way. I'd also love to hear from you. Make sure to drop a comment below and let me know what you think, or what it is you want to see next. And we'll see you on the inside. See you. That's a real truth
right.
serum. And like I'll give you an example. When somebody who's closing one or two loans a month, and they're like, "I'm busy, busy, busy," and if you genuinely evaluated your day and what you did, you have to just be honest with, is this even necessary? If you're closing one or two loans a day, you're not having more than 10 or 15
A month. Yeah.
conversations a week. So what you're really doing is lying to yourself and saying, "I'm busy." But look, the success isn't for people who do activity. Success is for people who get results. What
Mm,
you have to ask yourself is this: what's the result of this activity? And it just goes back to, I think our world is so intoxicated with, I'm busy, busy, busy. Well, if you're tired of it, stop. Be honest with yourself. You'd be better to put in a real 2 to 3 hours a day and go sit by the pool than to sit at your desk all day and lie to yourself and say, I'm being productive. You're
mm,
not being productive, you're being busy, and nobody rewards busy.
mm.
The world rewards result.
Mm,
results, and that's it.
mm,
So I think it's a truth serum of just saying I'm tired of it. And let me just do this as well. On the be do have, like let me give you some examples. Like for me, I'm God's man, passionately seeking his face, sensitive to and directed by the Holy Spirit. For me personally, the being part of me is uh, I'm called, not, this isn't a job, I'm called to make a difference in the lives of the families we serve. So every day I wake up, my drive and desire is to seek God and to serve people. That's my being. Now, the doing is this: I will only do activity that actually brings results. And I will let go of the busy work. So every activity I do, I have to ask, what's the result of that? And being honest with, okay, so what am I going to do? We know this: 13 conversations with 13 asks for the business gives you 2 relational referrals a day. You do that for a month, you'll get 30 to 40 relational leads, close 5 to 10 deals a month. So it goes back to, look, if I know that that one doing activity will produce the result I'm seeking, and here's the last part: I choose to focus on the only 1 or 2 things that move the needle and say no to everything else, because it gives me financial freedom, the security to provide for my family, and the ability to financially impact this world.
mm.
And it's like the more clear you get when somebody says, "Hey, Frank, this is an agent that closes 0 transactions and finally got a listing. Hey, Frankie, hey, would you help me with the open house I have this weekend?"
Mm-hmm.
Hey, listen, I really appreciate the opportunity. I want you to know I'm grateful for it, but I'm not going to be able to. So I'm going to have to respectfully decline. But listen,
Mm,
I appreciate it. But here's what I will do: if you get a chance to get a lead sheet of everybody who came in, get it to me before Monday morning. I'll call every one of them for you. Why?
mm,
Because I know my outbound prospecting is way more productive, way more profitable than showing up at a
mm-hmm.
unqualified agent's open house when it's
Mm-hmm.
not even their listing.
Mm.
So and it doesn't mean it's not a good thing, but I'm looking for the best thing. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That was a perfect example, Steve. Especially like Carl was talking, especially this morning where it's like, hey, maybe that's the only thing I've got is this agent asking me to sit this open house, right? He was talking about there's an orange tree that has one shriveled up little orange on it, and that's all I got access to because I haven't done anything else to get
mhm,
anything to have. If we have a lot of business we're working with, we have a lot of prospects, we've got a lot of inbound leads. It's a lot easier to say no to or
right, right,
to say no to that.
yeah,
Agent who hasn't done a lot, who's finally someone's asking me to do something with them, so I say yes to it. So perfect
hmm
example. And man, I tell you, the way that you responded to that, little scenario you proposed there was so good because
yeah,
it was like, hey, I can't do that. I've got other obligations. So I super appreciate it. But what I can do
hmm hmm
is if you keep a sheet of everybody that came through, I'll call every single one of them for you and see who I
absolutely,
can get
yeah,
pre-approved for you and get
yeah,
them over to you. Right. And so that was a great example of being able to say no and still reap some possible benefit from it because you're going to be doing in that example, if that were to actually play out that way and you were to get that sheet, you are sticking to
right,
your bead you have, right? You're
yeah,
sticking to your
yeah,
bead you have, right? And you're
yeah,
not doing something else that's going to take away from my prospecting time per se, my
right,
family time per se, my
right.
my other time, and just make me the guy that always says yes to everything and always is doing all this crazy stuff and is always so busy yet doesn't have the result,
Hey,
you
and
know?
you know what it does? It makes you resentful. I remember when I was running like a dog, I would run to the builder's open house. I mean, and this wasn't very long ago, Frank. This was 5 years ago. I was working 70, 75. I mean, I literally was turning into my dad. And I watched
Mm,
my family begin to resent me and resent what I did, especially my little kids, which are now 13, 10, and 8. And Frank, when you run like that, you know what it makes you do? It makes you resent. You get
mm,
bitter, you get angry, you get frustrated, you feel out of control. And look, so what if you said no to that agent and that agent didn't refer you anything? You know what, Frank? If we're honest, they ain't got nothing to refer. They hadn't
right,
closed a deal in a year.
right.
And it's almost like you'll drive yourself insane, where it's like, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do one leveraged event a month where you drive all of your unqualified and qualified agents to, show them what we're doing to prospect, and instead of running like a dog doing their other stuff, do a one to many, which meets a need of helping them show them, hey, here's how we call our database. Here's the structure. Here's the framework of the call. Here's the results we typically see. And then when it comes to things like showing up at open houses, look, could you do it strategically with an agent that closes 100 buy side transactions? Yes, if you want to. But if not, why not just, like, again, gracefully bow out, but offer to call the leads? So there's just so
Mm,
many ways to do it. The number one activity is this: you make the calls, you ask for the business with a warm group of people, you'll get relational leads.
mm,
Anything else is good, but is it the best? I don't know.
mm,
It's just
mm,
a choice. So Frank and I want to just encourage you and challenge you. Learn to, like, say no. What's something this week you can say no to,
mm.
so that you either get more time freedom or you're able to say yes to the one or two things that actually move the needle.
Perfect. Great
Yeah.
way to.
Hey, and we'll give them a plan. If you guys want help with it, we have the daily success plan. Go to freedomplanningcall.com. Kristen, myself, Frank, one of us will literally walk you through a plan of what we're doing each day to hyper focus. And I love, we do something called the Acts of Freedom. And it is a gift. If you've not actually done it, we can even walk you through the Acts of Freedom, where we'll show you what is it that you love to do, you're the best at, and makes you the most money. And it's a, I don't know, probably a 15-minute work, like a little thing that we go through that helps you identify, here's the top two, three, or four things that if I focus on that, I'm going to make a ton of money. So, freedomplanningcall.com. Grateful to have you in the community. Frank, anything else?
No, man, I think that was great, Steve. I always appreciate chatting with you and
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
learning stuff. And every time we get together and talk about this stuff, it helps me immensely as well. So I really appreciate you, man. Yeah. And so for everybody listening or watching, yeah, do it, man. Do it.
Freedomplanningcall.com.
There you
And
go.
remember this: anything worth doing is worth doing badly. Just get
Get
started.
started.
See ya.
Adios.